Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Fearless Generations with Terry Sayer and Kelly Fox.
Hello, and welcome to Fearless Generations, 12 Steps to Freedom. I am Kelly Fox, and I'm excited to be here tonight. We are in the second week of January. Believe it or not, the year has got started, and hopefully you're still doing well with your New Year's intentions. We're talking step 4 still, which is compassion, and tonight we're going to be talking about kindness. So let me bring on my beautiful co-host, Terry Sayer. How are you doing tonight, Terry?
Oh, I am doing well. I'm enjoying the fire in my fireplace and the dripping rain outside, which is not too bad here where I live. Parts of California are washing away, but here in our valley, we're just having a nice steady rain, which our ground is able to absorb.
Yeah, it's raining pretty bad here, but it's hopefully getting us out somewhat of the drought we've been in, but probably not. But yeah, it's the rain is kind to the earth here. We have a guest coach tonight. It's her first time to the show, so please welcome Mary E Knippel.
Welcome, Mary.
Hello. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Excited to be talking with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, Mary, please introduce yourself to the audience. Let us know what is it you get to do and who is it you get to serve.
I'm so thrilled and privileged to be able to work with women who want to tell their transformational story. I'm a book coach, and I help them get it out of their head and onto the page and out into the world.
Awesome. I love that. I actually, I believe last year is when it came out. I was a part of a anthology, and it was a really cool experience to get my story officially down on paper and have it out there for anyone to see. So it's definitely a powerful thing that you do to provide that service for others, and not only for the writer, but for the reader.
Absolutely. I strongly believe that we all have something specifically that's ours alone to share. And if we don't tell our story, there's somebody out there that is not going to have the life that they're designed to have, because we hold a piece of their story.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So tonight we're talking about compassion and kindness. How is compassion a part of your story?
Well, we all have gained life experiences from wisdom from all of our life experiences, and have the compassion for that wisdom to know that this is something that is that the world is waiting to hear from us. Now, we don't discount it that, everybody's been through that. Why would anybody want to hear my story? How is my story going to have any impact on them? And it's letting the inner critic have the final word and denying us to be vocal with, this is what happened to me. This is how I coped with it. And I'm sharing it so that if it's something that can help you with what you're going through, then I have lived my purpose. I'm sharing my mission. So being kind in the stories that we are telling ourselves, as well as the ones that we're sharing with the world.
Do you find that you when working with your clients that you are encouraging them to have compassion with themselves with their stories?
Oh, absolutely, because it breaks my heart that so many women think, well, I don't have anything special. That this happens to everyone, or I'm not unique. And the fact is that we have something that is so unique because it's ours alone. And what we discount as ordinary is what makes us extraordinary. How we show up for ourselves and our families and our friends and everyone that we encounter, just because we are women and we're wired that way, that we have such profound gifts for the world. And so often it's just like, well, we're just doing what we're supposed to be doing. We don't give ourselves credit. We don't take time for ourselves because we think that we have to be giving, and it's selfish to take care of ourselves, where that really self-care is not selfish. And so having compassion for all of that goes into the stories that we are here to share and the stories that we're here to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we could all be a lot more kind to ourselves, especially when it comes to, you call inner critic, we call voice of fear. When it comes to dealing with our voice of fear, if we're not being kind to ourselves, our voice of fear can kind of take over and convince us of lies that it wants us to believe, so that we don't take risks and we don't play bigger and we don't, or play big. I don't know how that would go. But and we don't step out of our comfort zone because it wants to keep us safe and inside our comfort zone. But when we can be kind and compassionate with ourselves, we can get past or get over that barrier of fear and take those risks. And so I think it's necessary for us to be kind and compassionate with ourselves. It also allows us to then be kind and compassionate to others, which is ultimately how most of us want to show up. We want to show up being kind and compassionate towards other people, and we can't do that if we aren't first kind and compassionate with ourselves.
Right, because so many women say, I can't do that. I mean, who cares if I tell my story? What does it matter? And there's the fear and the critic. We let the critic have the last word, and we stay silent. We say, I'm just going to be in this box. And what kind of example are we for our daughters and our sisters and the other women who are friends? So that we would be the first one to say, oh no, you're great. You have so much to offer, whereas we let ourselves down.
Yeah. Terry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just really thinking about that because the other night I did a little workshop on fear with some high school and college young ladies who are in a scholarship competition, and we talked about fear and why they are stepping out of their comfort zone by putting themselves in a position where they'll be sharing their talents, their intellectual capacity, their passions, and they'll be doing that in front of other people, panels of people that will be scoring them on how well they do. And I think that's a scary thing. And so we were talking about, well, what are the fears that you have in doing this? And it was a fear of failure, a fear of rejection, a fear of not being good enough, a fear of comparing themselves with others and feeling like they fall short. And one of the girls said, well, if I'm not as good as somebody else, then I'm just going to have to practice more and more and more. And to her about, we do what we can when we can the best we can. And if we want to compare ourselves to others and think we have to be perfect, we're really setting ourselves up for failure, because you can't be perfect in this life. That's a myth, right?
Right.
What you can be is true to yourself. You can be grateful for the talents that you have. You can love yourself and know that you're of great value, which gives you confidence when you go into an interview or you perform in front of other people. Just that mentality of doing your best is a part of compassion. And so growing up and living 2/3 of my life believing that if I wasn't perfect, I wasn't good enough, I can speak to that with complete honesty and vulnerability and tell them that there is no such thing as perfection, and that if that's their mindset and that's the only way they're going to be successful. And I would imagine writing a chapter in a book, you might have some of those same fears. I have to have good grammar. I have to be perfect. I need to have my, be able to tell a story with my words, and, just all the things you learn in school about a good author, right? A good writer, the components of a great story. And so I felt really good that these young women were able to, taking risks is not a path to perfection. It's a path to growth, and that they all have something of value to share with the world. And so I had them all write in a journal that I provided for them what was something they were going to do to have compassion for themselves as they were in this process. And I haven't read them yet because I just did this last night, but I had them all then give it to me, and now I'm going to read it and give them some encouragement and let them know that, they really have great value, and they're stepping out of their comfort zone, and they need to acknowledge themselves for the courage that they have and to access that courage with confidence that they can do what they can when they can the best they can. And they all wrote that down. Do what I can when I can the best I can. And that's been my mantra since I've been dealing with this addiction to perfection and, just letting it go. But you don't just let an addiction go. You manage an addiction, right? And I've been able to manage that because I know that it's a myth and that I can do my best. I definitely want to do my best, but I can do what I can when I can. And it's helped me so much. I've even stopped at the side of the road in my car when I get very, I have these visceral reactions to not being perfect. And I'll pull off and I'll just sit there and I'll take a deep breath. And I'll say, Terry, just do what you can when you can, the best you can. And then I go on and things turn out great, But it's that fear of not being good enough. And I would think that the ladies you work with, that's one of your goals, is to help them see that, to give them the courage and the confidence to be an author and to take that risk. Because once you put it in writing and you put it out there, it's there. And
Absolutely.
You want to be sure, you want to feel confident about what you've done, and you want to know in your heart that you are of value in your story. Like you said, if you don't write your story, there's somebody out there that needed to hear your story. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes an act of service, right? And when we're serving others, then we're loving others, and it's our purpose on the earth is to love one another. And so I think it's really important what you're saying about compassion for yourself and having that courage then to take that step out of your comfort zone and, in this particular case, share your story by writing your story.
Yeah, I love that you had them write in a journal. That's my secret weapon. Is that somebody will say, I don't know where to start. I wouldn't know what to say. Okay, you grab a journal and a pen and you set the timer for 5 minutes and you ask yourself, what is it that's top of mind right now? What does my heart want me to know right now? And just keep your hand moving for those 5 minutes. And that's beautiful that you gave them all journals. This is how you build your writing muscle, is to develop that writing practice and show up on the page. And it's scary to be vulnerable and transparent on the page. And so it's one thing that you start keeping a journal for yourself, to have that conversation on the page and just throw up on the page. That's what editors are for. That's when somebody like me comes along and say, okay, you got started. You got that nugget out of your head and onto the page. Now we can manipulate that. We can rearrange the words and have more of a development of the finesse of what it is you want to say and make it pretty. But the initial getting it onto the page, that may not be so pretty. So anybody who thinks that, I could never write like the ones that are in the library and the ones that are on Amazon, those authors and those books, heck, they didn't write like that in the beginning either. It doesn't come out all pretty. And that takes practice. That's work. Yeah. But the core, the essence, the emotion of those stories, those are within you, and that's what we work together to make it be that golden nugget that you're going to share with the world. It's being willing to look at what is it that happened in my life that changed the trajectory of having me be who I am right this minute because of what happened back there. And we're not dwelling at what happened back there. We're looking at, how am I being resilient right now? How did I make the adjustment to get through whatever I was going through? And sometimes you live it again, because you can hear the emotion in my voice. That it was like, that was then. I'm not there now, but I still remember all of those details. And that's one of the things that I really encourage any authors that I work with, is to just put us in the story with you. Give us the details of what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what describe your environment. And a lot of times when somebody says, well, I don't know about this writing stuff. How do I do this? So I'll even give them instructions on, tell us where you're sitting before you start writing. Anchor yourself in the room. If you're sitting at a coffee shop, are you in a booth? Is it a really rickety plastic chair? Is it a paper cup? Do you get to use a china mug? Tell us where you are, and then that anchors yourself in your environment. And setting the timer doesn't give you that out of, I got to check what time it is. Keep looking at your watch. You just keep your hand moving. And that frees you up so that you just get a download from the universe of, okay, just making space. Tell her, this is what we want to tell her now. And a lot of times there'll be repetition in your journal because the same thing wants you to really hone in on it, and you'll get different details. Or you'll keep writing the same thing. And if you keep writing the same thing, then there's more. So you want to keep going after those 5 minutes. And journaling is key. Showing up on the page and letting yourself hear the words that have been roaming around in your subconscious come to the surface.
Yeah, one of my favorite things as a third grade teacher was called Writer's Workshop, and the kids had journals, and I would conference with them, and they'd pick topics of interest to them, and then they would write and conference with each other, and then they get in front of the class and share it, and the kids would support each other and clap for each other. And I mean, some of those kids have ended up being teachers and going on and doing amazing things with their confidence. And I just say, that's where it started. It was in writer's workshop, where they do a brain dump on the page, and then they'd edit it and they'd craft it until they felt like they could tell the story in front of the class, and then the class would support them. And I mean, they could ask them questions if they weren't clear, but they could only give them positive comments or ask questions to have clarity, not to say, oh, that didn't make sense, but say, tell me about that some more, or what did the character do or say, to help the kids get clarity in their message. And I love that. They don't do that in school anymore because now they just do test scores, but it was really fun to do that with them and have them just have that creativity and that freedom to dump on the page whatever they thought and then go from there. Either discard that or craft it or start over. Just that mentality that we have permission to do that. And I think that's a part of kindness, is giving ourselves permission to do the things that we like to do.
I've heard that children aren't even taught handwriting anymore. And
no.
The pen on the page is the most direct link to your heart. And I can't imagine keeping a journal not with my handwriting. I couldn't imagine doing that. Everything I've done personally and professionally started with a pen to the paper. Yeah,
so, like what's her name? Rollins writing her pen on her napkin started Harry Potter.
Right. So, and because you're in a different part of your brain when you're using a keyboard.
You are. Yep, you're preaching to the choir here. Well, there's so much research, that Laurier, the French physiologist, trace your nerves from your fingers up through your arm to your brain. And when you're using a pen, not tapping on a computer, using a pen, there's so much more pressure that gets that up to your brain, So I say, oh, put that computer away and get out some pen and paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what builds the confidence, is being able to spend that precious time with your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
we got a little
great way.
There.
It's okay. I think it's a great journaling is a great way to show kindness to ourselves, to give ourselves that time to journal, or to even look for journaling prompts that are about being kind to yourself. One thing that I write down that is kind to myself every day is acknowledgments. And so I acknowledge myself 5 times for something that I did the previous day. And it's definitely an act of kindness, because it's me giving myself credit for doing something, because a lot of the times when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what did I even do yesterday? And then as I sit there and I rack my brain, I then think, oh, I did this and I did this and I did this. And if I hadn't sat down and started to write, I would have gone into the next day thinking I hadn't done anything the day before. And that wouldn't set me up for much success in the days to follow. So I think giving yourself time to sit and to reflect and to connect with yourself is definitely kind to yourself. And if you can write some nice things to yourself, that's even better. And I know acknowledgments we've talked about on the show before, but, they're a really great way of building your confidence, but also building up that evidence that you are worthy of kindness. We are out of time, ladies.
Oh, my
It has
goodness.
gone by very quickly. Mary, we thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight, and we want to give you the opportunity to share your contact information with the audience.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody who wants writing prompts, they can email me at mary@yourwritingmentor.com. I have a great PDF that has some writing prompts ideas, as well as on my website every Friday I have a writing prompt that I talk about, setting up the timer. And it was a delight to be on the call. And you're right, 30 minutes goes by really fast.
It does. It does. Is there anything that you have coming up that you would want our listeners to know about?
The second Wednesday of every month, I have a free masterclass about the writing journey. The next one is January 11th at 2:30 Pacific. I'm be delighted to have some of your listeners drop by.
Awesome. We'll definitely post about that in the group. Get Fearless at Any Age with Fearless Generations, so that they can have an easy one-click access to register for that. And please go check out Mary's website, as well as take advantage of the writing prompts. That's a great tool that she has offered us, so definitely take advantage of that. We thank you again, and I thank you, Terry, for always being here by my side. I want to remind you that the 12 Steps to Freedom were created by Rhonda Britton, the CEO and founder of the Fearless Living Institute. If you would like to know more about Fearless Living, please go to fearlessliving.org. If you would like to know more about Terry and I, please go to fearlessgenerations.org. You can find out about all things Terry and Kelly. There is access there to all of the past 9 years of podcasts if you want to go there and check that out. Also, you can find out information about our monthly membership, as well as the 5 new workshops that we're doing this year. The first one being this Saturday, the 14th of January, from 10 to 11:30 Pacific. It is free, and we invite you all to come. So you can definitely see that there and register. And we are super excited to be putting these workshops on. The other 4 are on the 4 no's of Fearless Living: no expectations, no complaining, no excuses, and no beating yourself up. And we will be sharing the tools to use to do something much more productive instead. And so you'll be able to turn those 4 things around and be able to have a lot more success in moving past your fear as you implement the tools that we will be sharing with you. So, Terry, do you have any last words that you would like to say tonight?
Well, no, I just think that accessing compassion for yourself and kindness for yourself really gives you the courage to step out of your comfort zone, be vulnerable, and take risks. So loving yourself, that is the key to accessing kindness and compassion.
Absolutely. I love it. Yes, Terry and I have both shared as a part of our story that compassion played a big role in our own personal journey. And we know that as you move towards having more compassion for yourself, it will catapult your journey as well. We thank you all for being here with us. We appreciate your involvement with the podcast, coming by, listening each week. We ask that you share the word. Let your friends know how much you like us. And until next week, everybody, be fearless.
Good night. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Good night.